So I think that everybody can fall for the same types of cognitive traps and have the same types of biases. And I think we all have things that we need to work on there. But I would say that for a combination of reasons, the conservative mind falls prey to these a bit more 20 years ago. And today they have completely gone insane.
What's happening, everybody? Destiny was a guest on the David Pakman show. You know, there's a couple of cool dudes hanging out. Destiny and David Pakman discussed a variety of topics, but in this particular clip, they discussed the fact that conservatives don't have any morals. Am I reading that right? I guess so. Anyway, let's watch Destiny spaz out on Republicans' lack of moral character when prompted by his boyfriend, David Pakman. Let's go.
I mean, unless you're going to get like a Ross Perot, like progressive running as a third party candidate, like if Bernie Sanders wanted to run third party, without that happening, I don't see that happening. I don't think I think that's a fictitious fear.
You just think the numbers don't justify that?
No, I don't think so at all.
When you look right now at the main cultural disagreements that exist between left and right, have they changed since, say, 15 years ago? I mean, in the sense that, like, abortion is still an issue and it's being discussed. Roe v. Wade has been overturned, but running on that hasn't been particularly good for Republicans. And then we start hearing about cat litter boxes and do parents have the right to decide what books their kids read, et cetera. Do you see the tone of the social issues that are causing disagreement changing at this point?
I do. So I think that everybody can fall for the same types of cognitive traps and have the same types of biases. And I think we all have things that we need to work on there. But I would say that for a combination of reasons, the conservative mind falls prey to these a bit more 20 years ago. And today they have completely gone insane in terms of falling for these things. The conservatives have lost their minds. I'm going to sound very partisan here. I'm sorry. They have no values anymore as a people, right? Every single, and I know this because I was a hardcore neocon writing articles for my school newspaper defending George Bush in the Iraq War when I was in high school. Okay? My mom is Cuban. Okay, we all cried when Elian Gonzalez got shipped back to Cuba under Bill Clinton. Okay, all these memories. Okay, so I grew up very conservative. I know what a conservative value system looks like. It's not supporting a guy that's making payments to his lawyer, to give hush money to a porn star that he's cheating on his wife with. It's not a guy with all these divorces. It's not a guy that makes fun of war, of prisoners of war. It's not a guy that manages to turn conservatives against the police. Like the few things that conservatives could brag about. Remember for BLM, they're like, well, we'd never treat police like that. Look at how much we love the police. They don't after January 6th. Look at the shooting in Texas, that school shooting. I've never seen so many conservatives come out and actually start attacking the police. The party and what happened to law and order or rule of law. Conservatives don't seem to care about that anymore either. For Donald Trump, he completely exists above and separate to the United States. He doesn't serve under the U.S. people or the Constitution. It serves him.
Isn't this just the realization that
just as a real thing, because the conservatives have changed so much and because conservatives have no platform, our conversations in the United States now are no longer policy oriented. In Congress, they try to do things, but conservatives have no policy platform anymore from which to speak. If you
Destiny lecturing anyone about values may be, in all the time I've been doing this, the funniest thing I've ever heard. A moral nihilist lecturing all of us about morality. It doesn't even seem real. Like, doesn't that sound like it should be a cartoon in the New Yorker or something? So Destiny's conclusion is that conservatives don't care about or love the police anymore because of the actions of a handful of people that every Republican I've seen denounces. What the hell are you talking about? He's either lying or living in a fantasy world if he thinks a few people's actions represent the values of an entire group of people. And explain to me how that compares to an entire summer of attacking police, killing people, attacking other people, ignoring police's orders, firebombing a police station. What are we even talking about here? I feel like I'm being punked. Oh, and not to mention, despite what a very small number of those protesters did, the police union backed Donald Trump. So who knows better the reverence that Republicans have for the police, you or actual police officers? Now, I know based on countless debates I've watched that you think you know exactly what everyone else is thinking. But Destiny, you don't. You don't. And you want to bring up Uvalde as an example? You think that people being upset about hundreds of police waiting for over an hour to neutralize an active shooter in a school is attacking the police? I need to check the date on this interview to make sure it wasn't done on April 1st. What is he talking about? And we've lost our morals because Donald Trump paid hush money to a porn star. Do you want to go through the past of every president of the United States? Because I don't think there's a president in the history of this country that doesn't have some skeletons in their closet. And you, Destiny, specifically in this area, might want to be careful before you call other people out and focus on yourself. Voting for president is like hiring a CEO. I'm not hiring a babysitter or the moral arbiter of the universe. You're hiring someone that gives you the strongest chance to be successful as a company, or in this case, a country. You seem to have a really hard time looking at people as individuals. Does everyone on the left lack values because Kamala Harris banged Willie Brown, a married man, to advance her career? Does that mean that the entire Democrat Party has no values? Of course not. I would never ascribe that to an entire group of people just because the person your party ran for president is a slut. Now, it just so happens that the people that run the Democrat Party have no values for a litany of reasons, but I would never label every Democrat voter that way because they're all individuals. Anyway, let's get back to it.
Ask conservatives, what is your policy platform? What are we going to do about housing? Leah Thomas, Greg Abbott needs to secure the border. Like, there's no policy platform anymore. Yeah, I think that's one of the big contributing factors where the discourse has gotten so crazy. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Isn't this just a reminder that a lot of the stated principles of this right-wing movement aren't really sincerely held? It's just for as long as they're convenient. And so, for example, the freedom of businesses to do what they want is a value they claim, but as soon as that's inconvenient and they want to go and tell businesses what they have to do, they abandon the principle. When it comes to all sorts of other issues, when it comes to choice versus force, freedom versus force, or whatever the case may be, it's just a reminder of the hypocrisy, but the voters don't care about that hypocrisy anymore, so I don't know how we make them care. Their voters don't seem to care about the hypocrisy.
Yeah, the values have just changed so much. Even to give two personal examples on my family, I don't know if I've talked to you specifically about either of these games before, but two I remember very well. I remember my mom crying. She was still active duty, I think, in the Air Force when she was taking me to daycare. I think it was quite young. Was it daycare? I might have been a little older in middle school. It was during the Monica Lewinsky scandal.
Yeah.
I must have been like 10 or 11, I think. And I remember her crying, and I didn't understand, like, why do you care what Bill Clinton does? Because he cheated on his wife. Is that bad? And my mom told me, Stevie, you don't understand. The president is the head of the armed forces. He's the commander in chief. The way that he treats women, that rolls down. So when mom goes into work and I already have to deal with all this stuff, being a woman and being, she was like 5 foot nothing, very sharp, blah, blah, blah. When the president acts this way, how do you think my commanding officers are going to act? And when it came to Donald Trump, my mom was like, well, Stevie, boys will be boys. It happens. And I'm like, Mom, what? When that grab him by the pussy tape leaked, there was that. And then the second thing was my father was also active Air Force. My dad gets I think it's 40% disability check from the Air Force because I don't know if you're aware of this, but when you go into the military, everybody gets vaccines. You get a ton of shots because they were deployed. They went to Okinawa. They got so many shots. My dad had a vaccine injury in his deltoid and he can't lift his arm well, such that he gets paid disability. Despite that, my mom and dad have always been pro-vax. Full stop. There is no shot that, and my mom cared so much about the protection of her children. We had to get all of our shots. It was so important, right? Even with a vaccine injury in the family. But now my mom won't get vaccinated for COVID no matter what, even though we've had 3 family members die from it. Those are just 2 examples where it's like, what is happening? I don't understand how the values have changed so much.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Here we go again with the anecdotes. Both of these buffoons, when they're debating or having a conversation, if someone disagrees with them, they want data, evidence, and statistics. But when they want to make one of their comically stupid arguments, anecdotes will suffice. By the time we're done with this video, you'll notice that everything that's been said in this meeting of the minds was either broad, sweeping generalizations or anecdotes. These two individually are insufferable, but together they're like a unstoppable force of unbearability, the likes of which mankind has never witnessed. And Destiny, by the way, I'm pro-vaccine for the most part, but for a variety of reasons, I didn't take the jab. Are you aware that those stances aren't mutually exclusive and each individual can make the decision they believe is best for themselves? This is just like everything else with this moron. It's either black or it's white. There's no in between. Now, by the way, and I say this sincerely, no sarcasm intended, Destiny's parents seem like lovely people, and I'm grateful for both of their service. But your stories about them don't convince one single person on the planet that Republicans don't have values. And your parents changing their mind on different issues is what normal human beings do. You see, unlike you, people with healthy brains are willing and even have a desire to continue learning and growing. And sometimes that translates into changing their mind on a given topic. Now, Destiny's been doing most of the talking, so I don't want David Pakman to feel left out. So I'd like to talk about him a little bit, but I am not joking when I say I am unable to respond to what David Pakman said about telling businesses what they have to do, freedom versus force, and something about cat litter boxes, because I have zero clue what he's talking about. I've never claimed to be that smart, so maybe it's obvious and I look like a fool, but I'm just being as straightforward as I can when I say I don't even have a guess as to what he's talking about. And if you watch my channel with any regularity, you know I'm a David Pakman expert. So if I missed something, I completely acknowledge I could have. Let me know in the comments what I missed. Anyway, let's get back to the video.
Really is. Stephen, a couple other things. When it comes to the strength of right-wing arguments you disagree with, what do you find to be their strongest issue right now? Not that they've convinced you, right? But you disagree with them, but you find it the most difficult to debate against because they are closest to having merit.
Is
there any?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I really can argue both sides of any issue that I talk about. I really do try to understand the other side. Conservatives are not on planet Earth right now. They just aren't. When it comes to the Trump stuff, when your argument is that Trump has psychic declassification powers, or when your argument is that the president should be immune from all civil and criminal liability, and the only way to hold him responsible is through impeachment, even though 10 plus Republican senators refused to impeach him on statutory constitutional grounds because they said we can't impeach him. He's already out of office. You just can't have it all of these ways. When conservatives are making arguments for hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin, saying, well, we've got this retrospective study, sample size equals 10, from Indonesia that says that ivermectin is really good. But then when DeSantis in Florida wants to ban trans treatment, he says, well, actually, we only are going to accept prospective, randomized controlled trial, double-blind studies for trans children. It's like, oh, wait, you do know what good medical research looks like. Interesting. It's really, really, really hard to debate conservatives in any type of fact-based world. Almost all of that is rhetorical maneuvering because we completely.
So there's no particular issue where you find yourself saying, hey, I really disagree that we should have a flat tax, for example, but they're pretty good at arguing for it, or there's nothing like that.
I would say the weakest side of the left right now is because we've gotten so detached from having conservatives in our circles, we run way too far with arguments sometimes, especially social stuff. So for instance, I might sound bad. As soon as I hear somebody use the word anti-racist, I know we're probably never going to agree on anything. When I hear the term white supremacy or white supremacist society or settler colonialism or Western colonialism, I know that whatever you're about to say next about is some wild stuff. You're about to tell me like 52 reasons why Black people can never be racist against white people, or why it's actually okay to have like anti-white graffiti on a school because of historic reasons related to blah, 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 blah. Like it's always going to be someone, or why being on time or being able to do math on a computer is actually a white person's thing. And that's racist to assume that Black people can show up on time to places. Like, I know it's going to be some crazy shit. That I would say that on the social stuff in certain areas, this is, I mentioned earlier, like school administrators, I think
I'd normally acknowledge that Destiny got something right at the end there, but I'm not going to this time. He spent the bulk of the video telling me that I have no values, so I'm not feeling that gracious. But what I will give him credit for is his argument comparing drug studies to studies about a made-up gender. Spot on. I've said this 1,000 times on this channel, and I apologize to my regular viewers for repeating myself, but it's impossible for you and the vast majority of the leadership of the Democrat Party to have any values, because what you perceive to be right and wrong is subjective and grounded in absolutely nothing. I don't need Donald Trump to be perfect, because I don't derive my values from a man. My values are rooted in my Savior, Jesus Christ. Let me know what you thought of this conversation between the two dumbest people alive. Anyway, that's it for this video. If you like watching videos of either Destiny or David Pakman talking out of their ass and have somebody own them, then I've got a playlist for each of them that should pop up on your screen here shortly. Otherwise, as always, I've got the best viewers in the world, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate you taking a couple minutes out of your day to watch my video. It really, really means a lot to me. See you guys.